nkarhi wo tala Moisa loyu u tolovele ku rhuketela vanhu na mina mara nkarhi loyi hayi u vulavule kahle swinene a ni khensa ku ri no president a ku khensa ku ri u tlo fa Comrade Tito Mboweni an official funeral category 2 ara wa ra leboga le nna be ke mo leboga Sello Malema. The leadership of the Alliance who are here present and the democratic movement, members of the business community, comrades and friends. We are all gathered here to bid farewell to one of the most illustrious sons of our motherland, South Africa. Our hearts are heavy because of this great loss that we have all suffered. But we are also here to celebrate a life well led, a life that is replete with many lessons that we can learn a lot from. On behalf of the government of the Republic of South Africa and the people of our country, I convey my deepest sympathies and condolences to the family of Tito Titus Mboweni on the loss of their father, their brother, and their uncle, and their grandfather. I convey my sympathies to the leadership and the membership of the African National Congress, a movement that Tito served with integrity in exile during the journey to democracy and beyond. We have lost a respected leader, a friend, a comrade, a teacher, a mentor, and a compatriot. He was known by many names to many different people. Some knew him as Comrade Tito, Uncle Tito, Bra Tito, Governor 8, an erstwhile national breadwinner, unpaid impresario for the Lucky Star brand, the Tin Fish, and also more respectably as the Duke of Makhubasklu. He was larger than life because he led such a big life and touched the lives of so many people. Tito Mboweni fraternized with heads of states and government, such as presidents and prime minister. He was on first-name terms with central bankers from all over the world. He was respected by leading economists, titans of business, labor leaders, and ordinary people in our country. Yet, despite his stature and despite his profile, he never lost the common touch. He had a gift to connect with people. He understood people, and he had a way to make people feel special and make them have a sense that they mattered. Governor 8 could relate to people from all walks of life. He was an empathetic man. He valued character over pedigree, and he was not a cynical person. He looked for the good in each person and usually found it. But at the same time, he was a person who did not suffer fools lightly or easily. Tito taught us that public service is noble and necessary, that one can serve the people of his country with integrity and hold true the important values like faith and family, he strongly believed that it was important to give back to the community and the country in which one lived. He recognized that serving others enriched the servant's soul. To me, he was the shining star that shined brightest in a maze of a dark period in the life of our country, a dark period we called state capture. He had already left public service when I knocked on his door asking him to return to public service as a Minister of Finance. I just said to him, Comrade Tito, your country needs you to do another tour of service. He agonized about giving up the material value he was building for himself and his family, but after a while, he came through for the people of South Africa and agreed to serve as Minister of Finance. That showed me that we were dealing here with a true patriot. Memory and truth are great virtues. The memories that people have shared of Comrade Tito over the last few days tell us much about his personality and the relationships that he formed with them. Some of the finest tributes have come from our nation's journalists. We hear of a senior minister who was always accessible, who pored over every detail in their stories, and who challenged and sparred with them. We remember how he would dramatically bring a potted alu forex plant to his budget speeches to illustrate his approach to fiscal discipline as he was delivering his budget. Through the alu forex plant, he sought to illustrate that, like our country, this plant survives and thrives when times are tough. We continue to admire how he always sought to demystify matters of the economy for our citizens. He insisted that government must communicate with the people of Tito defending his infamous brown shoes that had seen better days before. I remember being photographed with him at my house as he was wearing those brown shoes. I was also wearing almost similar brown shoes when the wave of criticism descended on his shoes. I immediately packed my shoes away so that I should retire them. I will look at them fondly and remember Tito Mboweni. We may then read what was perhaps the deeper meaning intended in all this, that when you hold public office, when you are entrusted with leadership, you must be of the people not standing above them, not looking down on them. For Tito, when you hold public office, perceptions matter. Tito's enduring self-deprecation, availability, and humility belied an illustrious career. His remarkable life spans the history of our democratic journey. He was an activist in the struggle against apartheid. He played a formative role in the development of the ANC's economic policy as the ANC prepared to govern in 1994. As the first Minister of Labour, appointed by the father of our democracy, Nelson Mandela, he oversaw the construction of a new labor regime in our country that would reflect the values of our democratic constitution. During his tenure, groundbreaking labor laws were passed. He introduced legislation, as we had, on collective bargaining, the basic conditions of employment, labor relations, health and safety, and employment equity that have served our country well over nearly 3 decades. These laws fundamentally transformed the labor relations landscape in our country and almost completely relegated apartheid labor laws to the dustbin of history. These laws restored dignity to workers of this country that had been denied them for centuries. He then became the first governor, a black governor of the South African Reserve Bank. He oversaw the modernization of our central bank. He introduced inflation targeting and convened the bank's first monetary policy committee meetings. And to keep the citizens of our country abreast on economic policy matters, he introduced a televised monetary policy statement presentation, which Governor Liseja Kganyago continues with to this day. Later on, as Minister of Finance, he undertook one of the most difficult of roles. It requires someone of mettle, of real courage. It requires an ability to take difficult decisions and to withstand extreme pressures. In a country such as ours, it also requires someone with a keen understanding of the imperatives of development, social transformation, and the ability to redress the damage that was caused by the past. All of which must at the same time be matched by pragmatism. He often had to tell his cabinet colleagues that there was no money for their ambitious plans. As the national breadwinner, it was up to Tito to put things plainly. As a country, we are better off for Tito Mboweni's steadfastness and resilience as Minister of Finance. He championed economic transformation just as he championed fiscal discipline and evidence-based policy making. Through his leadership, the National Treasury steered our economic difficult path through an extremely difficult period. He became finance minister when the country was emerging from the era of state capture, and as the country had to confront a devastating global pandemic. With him at the helm, the National Treasury set itself on a collaborative course with the rest of government to restore policy and regulatory certainty. This would culminate in the establishment of Operation Vulindlela, a joint initiative of the Presidency and National Treasury to speed up the structural reform process that our country so needed, particularly following the years of state capture. Since it was established, the reforms driven through Operation Vulindlela have made considerable headway towards resolving many challenges in our economy. What many will remember, but perhaps others do not know, is that Tito was instrumental in developing the strategy underpinning the reforms we needed to embark upon in our network industries. His initiatives and insights continue to have a very real and material impact on our economy as well as the lives of ordinary South Africans. It is gratifying that Tito got to see the impact of the hard work that he put in during his lifetime. But I would argue that he left us a bit too early before the reforms that we have embarked upon gain full traction and lead to a growth in our economy, inclusive growth, that should create more jobs, reduce poverty, and eliminate inequality. He got to see how the lives and conditions of workers were improved. He was able to see how safeguarding the independence and the mandate of the South African Reserve Bank works. And he was also able to see how reinforcing good and prudent transformational fiscal policy can be of benefit to our country. On initiating far-reaching structural reforms, the Bureau of Economic Research, which Tito often collaborated with, in Stellenbosch University, has said it is difficult to think of any other economic policymaker who has left such an enduring legacy. Tito Mboweni was particularly popular with the younger generation, and we had two of them speaking here on this platform. Who but Uncle Tito could have a chart-topping rap song titled with his name? Who but the Duke of Makhuba could share tips with 1.5 million followers on the best curry powder to cook a chicken with or fish with and impart economic education at the same time? Botala abahleketa kuri Tito Mboweni loko akomba vanhu kuri Lucky Star ingaswekwa kanjani, abahleketa kuri wa penga. Mara a dyondza vanhu vo tala kuri economy ifamba njhani. Our younger generation Many of his social media followers have a delightful phrase, understanding the assignment. Loosely deciphered, it means knowing what must be done and doing it well. Comrade Tito and I shared a deep passion, which many people may not know about, for trout fly fishing, and would spend a considerable amount of time talking about the skill of casting a line on the water to catch a brown trout and compare that to prudent macroeconomic policy management. I'm glad to hear from his sons that he has also taught them how to fly fish. But I kept fearing that on budget day, he would bring a dead trout fish to the National Assembly and talk about it. I'm glad that he never did. To the Mboweni family, you are all having to deal with the raw heartache from his death. But we want you to know that we are all feeling the pain together with you. Tito's departure has left a void in our hearts. We know that your grief of loss is so overwhelming, but I cannot refrain from offering you the consolation that our nation gives when it expresses gratitude in the manner that many of us have expressed our gratitude to what Tito meant to the people of South Africa as he served them diligently. And I do hope that the recognition of the people of South Africa who knew him may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you the memory of the appreciation many who knew him have spoken about, and the solemn pride that must be yours as a family that gave birth and nurtured such an outstanding son of our country. Comrade Tito, you understood the assignment. As we bid farewell, my dear brother, my comrade, my fellow fly fishermen, your legacy as a successful transformation person, from a freedom fighter to a businessman to a central banker and to a politician, you were a true servant leader. You were deeply admired, and you were dearly loved by the people of this country. You did deliver on what was required of you. You acquitted yourself with dignity and with honor in the ANC, in government and beyond. You depart this world with that dignity, that honor, and that reputation intact. You did not disgrace or betray your movement or the people of this country. You were a credit and an asset to both your movement and your country. You leave at a time when what you started in the form of reforms are gaining traction and are set to catapult our economy to a higher level. You leave at a time when we have set up a government of national unity, a government of national unity that has brought together, in collaboration, 10 political parties that seek to work together to attain the key priorities that you yourself supported. You leave at a time when we will be holding a national dialogue which will bring our people together through their various formations, where they will come together and discuss where our country and our nation should go to. You live at a time when there is so much promise for the future of our country. And we can say you, in more ways than one, worked for this moment. You worked and you made sacrifices so that we should get to where we are. You also live at a time when your movement is being renewed, when we are dealing with the challenges that have dogged our movement for the longest time. What you have done is the most we can hope for the leaders that will follow in your footsteps. And this is the highest we should all aspire to be like Tito. Like Tito, we should strive to be the servant leaders. We should each aspire to do everything that our country asks of us. Tito Mboweni did do what this nation, what this country asked of him, and he did not disappoint. So we say, Comrade Tito Mboweni, farewell. Ufamba kahle mkhonto. Itatle ihlangana siku rin'wani. Rest in eternal peace. Nakhensa.